Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fine.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry I am so late. I am just having a slow day. Sometimes it happens to me. We've got some interesting stuff going on because last night it kind of seems like the whole Iran thing kind of flared up again. Let's kind of take a quick peek at the charts, see where's we at. I think, oh man, am I on the wrong, are they on the wrong, because I only see Kevin's comment, but then I see Vital and Schroeder on the other one. Hold on, what's going on here? Let's come back over here first. Did I somehow start two streams? No, this one is wrong. How did that happen? Delete forever. I don't know how that happened. I must have gone in and like set the thing twice or something. Nope, won't even. That's funny. So then if I go back to the old stream and try and type anything, it's just like, nope. 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 Live now. Are we going? It is going. Okay. Hopefully everybody makes it over. This is so weird. Okay, well, I'm going to come over and start and see what we got going. Okay, so it looks like yeah, my computer got restarted or, had some issues yesterday, so I'm going to have to like re-roll over all the instruments because they didn't save. Okay, so in the treasury is getting hit overnight because of flare-up intentions with Iran. I'll go into more detail about that. S&P 500 here, only down a little bit, and oil, Okay, so oil is not really seriously raising its ugly head yet. Okay, something else in the treasuries is that there was some comments by central bankers and things like that. So it really seems like that they're getting more hawkish over there, okay? And that's why the treasuries are responding stronger than some of these other assets, I think. Okay, silver and gold. Well, gold and silver. They're down. Copper. Copper took a hit overnight, but it looks like they recovered that one. The dollar taking a big rise, although it looks like most of that has been unwound this morning. And Bitcoin taking a bit of a dive again. I was starting to see some stuff on social media again, kind of very pessimistic about Bitcoin, that like the run is over, like it's done, nobody's interested in it anymore, yada, yada, yada. So, yeah. Okay, so one of the things that has been going on that I personally did not really see a whole lot of media about until recently, and I think is actually quite a big deal, is that the what is the group that we call it's called? Because I don't think it's Hamas, but the terrorists in Lebanon have been using drones against the Israeli military. And specifically, like the kinds of drones that they've been using in Ukraine, like drones with like the fiber optic lines and things like that, which is quite crazy because the Israeli military is trying to get themselves like a buffer zone, but then these drones have like a 35-mile range or something. So can you imagine 35 miles of fiber optic line? That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. And I think that the Israeli military are particularly upset by this because, you know, they're posting clips online of, you know, Israeli military soldiers not being able to really do anything but try and hide. Yeah, it's getting into drone wars. And so this is a pretty significant, I mean, the whole drone thing has become a big deal in the Ukraine war. It's kind of turned into, over in Ukraine, like, because these can take out tanks, they can do all sorts of things. How do you stop it? Really a big advantage to the defenders over there in Ukraine, right? But in this case, I guess you could call the Israeli military the attackers, but you know, it's really kind of more of a terrorist kind of situation. Again, they can just send drones over, and what are you going to do? So Israel has been crossing the yellow line, is what we've been calling it. Basically, a line drawn that the Israeli military wasn't going to go past while negotiations were going on with Iran, between the U.S. and Iran. And so what happened was they stopped, they set up that line, and then they started sending drones across. So the Israeli military is like, nope, enough, we're going through. They're pushing forward. And I'm kind of thinking that they're just going to end up occupying all of Lebanon. Although I don't know. It's a very fluid situation that we in the West haven't been hearing very much about. But I really, you know, Iran, several points, because remember when we were trying to get a ceasefire in the very beginning, they were saying, well, Israel has to stop too. They have to stop too, right? So I think that particular development makes a deal with Iran significantly less likely. Significantly less likely. Because Iran is just going to continue to say, well, but Israel is pursuing this war in Lebanon where there's basically an Iranian proxy. And, you know, they're going to demand an end to that. And Israel's not going to let that happen because they can't just allow terrorists to send fiber optic drones across the border every day. That's crazy stuff. I mean, that is, I would say, something that would if people were sending kamikaze drones across the Mexican border, Mexico would just be the 51st state now, you know? So, personally, my optimism for a deal is like at an all-time low, even though officials are still talking like that it's going to happen. Yeah. But officials are still kind of talking like it's still going to happen, and so the markets haven't like really blown up yet. I also, though, another thing is happening, so completely unrelated to all of this stuff in the Middle East, is that there has been a major shift in the sentiment for AI. We've been talking about this but I would say that like over the past day, the media and the investors have really picked up on it. And it is that AI costs too much. That the token cost is like 10 times more than what these companies are actually showing you. And then the companies that are trying to use the AI to its fullest extent, because they're coming in and they're just going like, hey, Claude, make me rich. Go. You know, just giving it the most broad thing, giving it a multi-agent framework, like 10 LLMs all working, make me rich, right? And they're just burning tokens. If I come in and I work, I use AI really heavily at work, and it's you know, it's a, what do we call it? A usage-based system, so I can see how much money I've spent on it. And even on a really bad day where like I've really used it heavily and I've used like multiple LLMs at the same time, it's maybe $5 a day, roughly. But I'm hearing some stories where like a CEO did a demo and it was like $1,000. Yeah, you can get up there if you use the right models and you're using multiple models at a time and all of these sorts of things, right? So the cost is hitting them, and that is causing I think a pretty major reallocation of capital. Goldman is saying they're going to reallocate the capital from the data center build out into robots, essentially, which maybe that is what's going to happen. But AI is like the thing keeping this economy up. So if that investment goes down, you're going to see GDP I essentially come down. Then you get the numbers that we got this morning. GDP, quarter over quarter, 1.6%. Where is it? Over here. 1.6 versus the expected 2%. So, and that's the second estimate. So that's actually a pretty significant change in the second estimate. And you want GDP to be over 2%, if not 3%. So when you start getting into 1.6%, we're getting into lower growth than what we want. So that's why I think the treasuries are shooting up here this morning, although they're still down from the overnight session, right? There's going to be a very interesting kind of race here between which becomes a bigger concern and which happens first. Inflation from the Iran conflict or deflation from global growth concerns. That's where we're stuck between. Now, Vital was asking a question in the other stream. And again, I'm sorry, you guys. I don't know if I like just hit the button twice or something, but it like started two streams. So like I deleted the other one and did all sorts of weird things. But I think everybody found it now. I think we're all good. He was asking what exactly happens these last 2 days of the month because it's been really rough. Well, so not only are you getting the end of month trading, but you're also getting rollovers, right? At least in the treasuries, you're getting rollovers. So what's that going to mean? Well, because this one I haven't rolled over. Yesterday we rolled it over, but then my computer restarted, so Jigsaw didn't save it. Okay. There's hardly any activity in the old one now, because if you were to trade in the old one, you could get assigned, right? So what happens is everybody either takes, closes out their position in the old one, and then if they want to keep it going, they'll open up a new position in the new one. So what that means is that you will get really weird kind of contradictory order flow going on, because you would think, this thing should make it move up or whatever, but then you see that it doesn't, or maybe the price moves up but you see the cumulative delta is selling because the longs are taking profits on this month and they're opening up positions in the next month, right? So makes the order flow in particular very, very difficult to read. So, and then at the end of the month, what's going to happen is you're going to see rebalancing. Basically, especially in the S&P 500, you know, they're going to sell some of their winners and buy some of their losers so that their asset allocation matches what the index is supposed to be. Which kind of reminds me of that video that Vital sent me, because it was another streamer, and he had kind of like a watch list, essentially, of all of the individual component stocks and whether they were up or down, which was kind of interesting. But I think probably not sophisticated enough of an analysis to really, really draw a serious edge out of. I wonder if, you know, you get something that's really, really showing those flows well. You could see the money coming into the ones that aren't as up that month and coming out of the ones that were up a lot that month. That sort of a thing. Now, the good news is that after the rollover happens, the futures become more sensitive. You tend to get better order flow setups at the beginning of a contract. Okay, so beginning of a contract tends to be really good, and then as the contract wears on, the signals get less and less effective. Brannigan Barrett. Why are you talking about Brannigan Barrett? That's kind of out of nowhere. I really like that guy though. When will there be a data center in space? Maybe that's the fix. Well, you know, so the interesting thing is that DeepSeek is pretty good, but I don't know how good DeepSeek actually is at coding. I mean, the thing is that there has been changes in Claude from the 4.7, like introduction of Opus, and then from 4.5 and then 4.7. So those kind of 4, because there was like Sonnet 4.5, right? Then Opus 4.5 and then 4.7 of both of them have been particularly good and have enabled a lot of like applications of it, I guess, that you couldn't use before. So like if I'm using DeepSeek and I'm just asking a question, oh, hold on, I forgot to turn my speakers off. So I'm not sure if DeepSeek replaces Claude, and I think that most of the developers right now would be very upset if Claude was cut off from them. You know, like you've probably seen discussion about Microsoft banning AI or whatever. That's not what actually happened. What actually happened was they said, we're cutting off our Claude subscription. You have to use Copilot, which is Microsoft's AI. Which, by the way, you know, like we've used in our Git repositories at my work and everybody hates it. So, or what it's worth. Like his market, I haven't really seen anything from him, like market analysis. So here's the thing that I've been harping on the most the last few years. The majority of the retail trading influencer community is a complete joke. And you come in and you're looking for setups and whatnot. Okay, what are we going to do today? And they have absolutely no acknowledgement of what's going on in the market. Okay, so we had big moves by Iran overnight. Some tensions over there, although they still sound hopeful for a deal. and then we got some weak economic data this morning. So that really should color our view of what's going on here. I think that I would be looking for limited longs because of the weak economic data, but I got to be careful because there could be a bad Iran headline come out, right? And increased tensions probably will cause the treasuries to sell, right? So that kind of analysis is just absolutely essential before you even come in and start looking at some of the technical things. Because the thing that matters the most is the future orders, and particularly the future market orders. So how do you predict the future market orders? There are maybe some situations where you can identify trapped traders and that sort of a thing, but most of it has to do with looking at these sorts of things like the news, or then the other thing that we've got going on, I forgot to mention, is that we're at the end of month. So we have end of month flows coming in, and we have rollover flows coming through, right? That's the sort of stuff you can use to predict the future market orders, right? Well, I don't see Brannigan Barrett talk about it in as much detail, but when I look at him tweet on Twitter, he's talking about the macro stuff. He understands what's going on there and things like that. He is a guy that genuinely knows what he's doing. Does. He went and I think he started a trader community, which I am kind of like, okay, that's the best. That's like he left Axia and kind of started his own community, which I think is kind of weird. But he sounds like a character straight out of Mary Poppins. Yeah, it's a smooth British accent. It's not a smooth British accent, man. It's a posh. It's the most posh British accent you're ever gonna hear. You hear that guy talk, and you immediately know, hey, his parents weren't poor. Okay, like. He has this one video, I think one of the best videos in Axios, where he shows you a video of an apple and he says, okay, is this apple red? Well, actually, it's not actually red. I mean, like, there are parts of it that are red, but there are parts of it that are yellow. There's a stem that is green and brown, and, and the market tends to reward that kind of nuance. I think that was a really, really, really insightful observation and way of relating it to other people, so he is really good. But I don't know if they're doing stuff like market profile and some of these things, because ultimately my issue when we start talking about the technicals is that we really kind of need empirical data to back it up, and I don't think that they do. Oh man, I'm getting hot. I'll fold up my sleeves here. Just give me a bit. All right. Getting ready to throw hands. So, but the thing I've been thinking about all through talking about this is that Vital sent me a video a couple of days ago because we did like let's review somebody else's trades. So we had a video of Tori's trades where she put it up as like an example of a bad day, and it was way worse than any of her analysis that was in there. I don't know. It's I have mixed feelings about doing that sort of thing. I don't think that like attacking other channels and doing like a trade review series is really the thing that is like the best thing for the channel and our brand and all of those sorts of things. I think that my focus right now is I want to make my own platform. I've come a long way. I've got something that's working pretty good. I'm getting close to getting into the real money-making features of the platform, the things that my platform can do that other platforms can't. You know, and so I really want the channel geared towards that. But man, you know, like that Tori Trades one, it was way worse than she was letting on because she was doubling down. She was martingaling on that. She didn't say anything about it in the review. Here's something you're doing that, like, your viewers kind of should be aware that that's what you're doing, and it kind of distorts the results, right? It makes it look better than it really is because you know, you take a loss and then you double up on the next one so that you're more likely to come out of the day with a positive number. And then when it doesn't work, well, you're absolutely destroyed, but like everybody forgets about that one, right? That's what was happening there. Oh, can you hit anything about the platform? Well, so the main goal of the platform is to make it easier for you to implement things like machine learning into your indicators and your trading. That's the main thing. So basically, it's you know, some of these platforms, they have issues with the technologies that they're created on and their approach and the way that they use the data and everything that makes that kind of data science side of things really difficult. And my platform is built with that from the ground up with that in mind so that you can use machine learning and it'll be really easy. Yeah, that was Tanya Trades. So yesterday, I finally viewed the video that he gave me of, oh my gosh, I can't even remember who it is now. What was it? Fat Cat. Showed me a video of Fat Cat. And the title of the video is What a Professional Trading Session Looks Like. So by the end of the video, he is up. He made a decent amount that day, but it was completely luck. Like, oh my gosh. So the video starts out with him taking like 3 or 4 trades that were all bad. They were all bad trades that just kind of never went his way. And then what starts happening is he gets frustrated when they're not going his way and will reverse. He'll take the opposite trade. And then when he did that, those are the ones that ended up working. And there's one at the very end where he does that. And then it starts going up and he's like, yep, there you go. You see that, you know, like congratulating himself. Like I knew that's what was going to happen, sort of a thing. But what was happening was that Donald Trump had tweeted something and the market was pushing up because of that. So he was lucky that he had just kind of happened to reverse there right about the same time or just before that hit the market. And that's why he came out profitable. So, man, I kind of wish that you hadn't have shown me that video because I've been asked about Fat Cat a lot. I have I would say there's a group of my viewers. I can't remember who, but in the past, when I've like, oh, here's another influencer that you like that I should watch, and they always say you should check out Fat Cat. You should check out Fat Cat. And every time that I go, it's like I watch a video and he will spend forever explaining something that I think is kind of basic. Like in this video, he spends a lot of time talking about, well, the order flow in ES is kind of messed up because it's an index. Yeah, I've been telling you guys that forever. If you really want to trade order flow, I would recommend getting off the indexes. I mean, maybe you can get order flow to work over there, but I think it works much better in places where like that market is the primary market for, like the treasury market, where the futures are really, really kind of like the leader. Like everybody's looking at the treasury futures, or oil would be a good one, or maybe some of these commodities like corn, pure ag, or like if you want to go into metals, maybe copper. I say copper because you can actually look at supply and demand there versus gold. It's a little speculative, right? Those are the places where I trade order flow. That's always kind of been my criticism. And in that video, he's kind of saying like, oh, I've kind of shifted in the past little while. Now I think that. Okay, cool. Feel like you're a little behind the curve, but okay, cool. But then his trading was terrible. Guys, it was so bad. He goes and he explains this whole big thing, and then the trades that he's taking, he's just winging it. There's not any kind of discussion of, okay, I saw this and this and this in the order flow, and so that means that I should be getting in. It was really just getting in and then kind of doing the sort of talk that we do sometimes, where it's, it's being tricky on us. Of course, that one didn't work out, kind of the irony of getting into trades sometimes. When I think most of it was just random. Well, he's taking longs in a market that was negative because they were basically market anticipating like increased tensions in Iran. And then just after one of his trades. Oh, so here's the other thing. Is that this was like later in the day. So one thing that I would point out to you should be aware of if you're trading equities later in the day, is that margin calls go out 1 hour before the close. So about 1 hour before the close is kind of when margin calls get hit. And that's why you will sometimes see these like massive trends at that time. When it's like a bad day and then all of a sudden it extends, it's like the margin calls go out. So this one, he's trading at that time, not knowing that that's a big deal. And then what do you know? Just after the margin calls go out and things are getting bad, a Trump tweet magically appears and saves the market. And he does make no he's not watching the news squawk. He's not like, oh, Trump did this. He maybe still doesn't know that trade only won because of a Trump tweet. Right? And it was really not like some setup. It was, I'm frustrated, I'm losing on this, I'm going to reverse. It was for real terrible trading. I think we all have terrible trading, This is why I always come out and I say, I am not making any kind of a claim about how Seth performs or how you're going to perform if you try to trade. My position is if you try to trade, you're probably going to lose money because that's just what happens to most people. I've done okay, but I would say that I tread water most of the time. And I think that it's very, very, very difficult to do what I do. You have to come in here every day, be really dedicated, keep very much on what's going on. You guys do it, but we're very, very small compared to the relative overall, we're like 1% of the retail day trading community, right? If even that, right? So most people are going to fail at it, right? So I think to come in and to be like, he's the real deal. I think he got lucky, man. To be honest with you, you say he made $500,000 trading. Well, it looked like in that video, he was submitting real orders and everything. It was only one contract. So I don't know how you make $500,000 trading one contract. But just the trading in that video was terrible. And I wish you hadn't have shown it to me. Because before I could kind of just be like, you know, I don't really like watching his videos, but he seems like a nice enough guy. Now I kind of have to be like, I really got to question the whole thing. I think that whatever success he's had has just been luck. Because the thing that bothers me about it wasn't just that the trading was bad. Because I've had bad trading days. We could go and find some videos. I don't know. I would have to go back in my records, but there was periods where I had like 11 losers in a row or something like that. Like I've had some periods where just really bad luck, you know, terrible trading, or where I'm on tilt and I'm just not thinking straight. That absolutely happens. But the thing that bothers me about that video is that he posted it with a title, "What a Professional Trading Session Looks Like," and was holding it up as like this was a good session, when his actual trading was terrible. So he doesn't even realize how terrible it was. That really bothers me, and I can't claim ignorance anymore. Not watching the news while scalping is suicidal? Yeah, it really is. I tell you what, man. I mean, I think part of it is that when you get somebody, they're posting themselves online, we're supposed to have some degree of respect, right? It's like, well, this person has made money, so we should respect what he says or what they think about the markets, right? Isn't that kind of the whole premise of people watching and listening to them? But if you want my respect, show me that you're doing it well. Like, I can't take an influencer seriously if they're day trading and they have no clue what the context is. They're not watching the news. They don't know what's going on. They catch a winner and they don't know that it was some tweet. Like, that'll happen. You catch it, right? And I often will figure that out later. That happens sometimes. Like the news is delayed to me, or I didn't realize, you know, that it was a big deal or whatever the deal was, right? It happens. But to be trading and claiming you're a big trader and then you're not paying attention to any of that stuff, that's not sustainable. You're not really making your money from the trading. Like, you're going to have like one good year and then you're going to blow it, is what's going to happen when you're doing that. Seriously. You know, I respect if you can show me data, you know, like, oh, the market tends to do this. Here's the data that shows that it does that. Then I believe something. But people come out and, oh, here's a good setup. You should trade like this. You should trade like that. If they don't have data, I don't give a shit what they say. I don't care if they've made money in the past or not. And then when you get things like this, okay, yeah, maybe you've made money in the past, but like, that's terrible trading. And I'm like really concerned if people are watching your trading and trying to emulate it. You know? Like, it's okay. It's okay to stream and be bad at trading and stream it. Where I take issue with it is when we start holding that up as like people should emulate that. I'm not telling people to emulate me, you know? Yeah, I wish you would talk about people you respect and you follow in addition to the people you crap. Well, but we do. We do. Because really who you should follow is Jean-Philippe Bouchot and the people that post studies on archive.org. That's real shit. One of the things that I think is so bizarre is, okay, we can go back to the 80s and we can talk about, who are some of the people that became really big investors during the 80s. Like George Soros. George Soros was a big fund manager back then. How did George Soros make his money? How did he do his trades? It's an interesting thing to read about. So who is that kind of, who are the people having that kind, or even better, the Renaissance Capital guy. Oh man, what is his name? He died recently. It was so sad. Yeah, Jim Simons. That's what I was looking for. Jim Simons. Because I always say it wrong, and I think it's Simmons, but I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Simons. Jim Simons. He's a really big guy in the 80s. Phenomenal success. So who are the people like that today? It's Jean-Philippe. He founded what is essentially the largest, most successful CTA firm out there, Capital Fund Management. It's based in France, so I guess maybe we don't know as much, we don't hear as much about it because they're in France. But if there's anybody, especially in futures trading, that you would want to listen to because they've had success, is Jean-Philippe Bouchot. And nobody in the retail space has any clue who this guy is. No clue who this guy is. He founded, he was a co-founder of the best CTA firm out there. He is one of the lead editors at archive.org, and he has written some of the most important empirical studies on order flow that there are. And he has shown some effects about, he is basically, this guy is so legendary in my mind because he has essentially demystified the biggest question in markets. Why is trading so hard? Why are people able to make money from momentum? All of these things, because the market appears efficient. Like, what's the deal? And him being able to come in and show that the market is more statistically efficient than it is informationally efficient, and why, what are the actual properties of the markets that causes that to happen, which is basically that square root law and why the square root law happens. Because he didn't discover the square root law. That was see, I'm in one of these moods again where I can't fucking remember anybody's name. Doyne Farmer was the one that discovered the square root law. And Jean-Philippe Bouchot, I think, has the best study as an explanation, of a microstructural explanation for why. So I guess we couldn't say that it's like completely a solved issue, but I think that his study is really compelling. And I think that it answers all the questions. So it really is like the fundamental, like, key missing factor that helps us understand why markets are the way that they are. And that's why he's a complete legend. I don't think that people realize that we are really in the golden age of quantitative finance. People are using the technology. The technology is finally to a place where it can handle the complexity of the markets, and we are learning things about markets and economies that have perplexed people for hundreds of years, and now we have the answers. And the average retail trader is just completely ignorant of this stuff. It just boggles my mind. It's so crazy. If Jean-Philippe Bouchot like streamed his live trading every morning, I would probably stop streaming and just watch him. How is this study called? So the one that you want to look for is his Walrasian one. Jean-Philippe Bouchot Walrus Auction. From Walrus Auctioneer to Continuous Time Double Auctions. This is the study that you want to read. You can come to archive.org. Oh, yeah, wants me to go to this. There's the link. It kind of shows how when you come in, you've kind of got like your supply and your demand and where they intersect. And in this area is where those orders get filled. I think he has further diagrams, right? Yeah. So then post-auction, you get this hole. You get this area where there's not any liquidity anymore because those guys were already filled. And so there's more liquidity below us and more liquidity above us, and you just get stuck. You just get stuck. And he shows how this... So there's a picture of the hole, right? And he shows how this leads to the square root law. And this is one of the things... And you can see this behavior very clearly in the treasuries. Like, seriously, how is it? You're trading. It's going down, 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 down. And then all of a sudden, it's just dead. It's just dead. It just goes nowhere. What's happening there? That's where that hole is. Right? We were to turn this on its side. And then that little point right there would be right here. And they just traded back and forth across that line. That's what's happening. A proven empirical behavior caused by market microstructure. Brilliant. And it explains why markets behave the way that they do. Once you understand that, really explains most of the other things that you see happening from a technicals perspective, an order flow perspective. And then the rest of it is just understanding, why are people submitting the orders that they are? Some of them, that's because they're afraid of Iran. Some of it is because it's the end of the month. Some of it is because they're rolling their contracts over, right? Yeah, I think I asked this a couple of years ago. I talk about this every day, I feel like. The liquidity whole thing, I think we talk about it every day. Maybe I need to make a video specifically about this. Like going into this study, like the math behind it. Because where it gets... the thing that I think is really interesting about it is the way that he derives it mathematically. Because he's basically able to show that when you do the calculus to say, okay, so if we have this supply and we have this demand, and then we have an auction, so the supply and demand, they get matched up, and here's what you have afterwards. Okay, and then you do it again in 5 minutes. So there's a certain amount of new liquidity that will show up in 5 minutes, and then you do the auction again. And then you do it right. Okay, so then with calculus, we're saying do that thing, but instead of 5 minutes, do 4 minutes, and then 2 minutes, 1 minute, until it's in an infinitely small amount, right? And when you do the integration, you get out the square root law. Square root impact zone. From linear to square root impact. And there you have right there in the study. He derives, essentially, the square root law that we've seen from Doyne's study and all of this other stuff. This is probably the most studied and proven empirical behavior of order flow, if not all markets. He shows how that microstructure leads to that behavior. Maybe I could make a video going through the algebra of it. How he gets to that. I don't know if people would find that interesting or not, but then he does empirical confirmation. Show it on Bitcoin. It happens on Bitcoin. And the importance of it doing it on Bitcoin is it shows that it is a behavior of the limit order book. Because a lot of people think, oh, well, it's just because people think this or they behave in this certain way. Well, then why would it happen in Bitcoin? This is a completely different market. It's new. It's all these things. But it has a limit order book. You see the same behavior. It's crazy stuff. I just can't. It makes my brain hurt trying to think about how retail traders don't know this shit. What is the volume in that hole? Well, so what happens is that you end up spending so much time in that hole that it ends up being the point of control usually. It's usually the point of control. Because remember, it's a square root law, and then there's the 3/5 law. Really got to read the book, but trades, quotes, and prices, financial markets under the microscope kind of has a bunch of different studies that you can kind of tie them together, and then you start to get into the really wild stuff. But the square root law, if you graph a square root law out, it looks like this, right? So this is the square root of Q over V. After that, there's a mean reversion period, and that mean reversion is a 3/5 law. So it's Q over V to the 3/5 essentially. Right? And you can kind of do there's some equations you can kind of do all of the math to figure out like how long will that impact last for? How long will it take for the liquidity to come back and that hole no longer be there? And it essentially ends up being, if this is X, it ends up being 2.5 times X. Or about 45 minutes. About 45 minutes is what it typically is. So this part happens over 10 to 20 minutes. And this thing happens over 30 to 45 minutes. They stay there for so long, the majority of the volume actually ends up trading right here. So then when you come and you look at the volume profile, it's going to be like this. And then whoop, there's a big spike here. And they're saying, oh, look, there's a Gaussian distribution around this node. That must mean something. And that's when the auction theory guys, they came in and they said, oh, that must mean this is a reflection of value because that's where everybody's trading it. That's where they think that fair value is. And then I can say this is like the edges of fair value. And if it goes outside of that, maybe it's more likely to come back in. And if it doesn't, then it's going to go up and it's going to form a new fair value and yada, 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 right? What they're actually catching is just the liquidity hole. It's kind of a coincidence that happens there. It's just, that's the point at which the liquidity providers become stressed and pull back. And the market orders stop being so aggressive in response. And they start trading, half of what they were, the pace. Like if I'm saying I'm doing 100 orders per whatever, I'm doing half of that over here. But then you're over here for 2.5 times longer. This ends up the point of control. So that's who I would listen. He's now Jean-Philippe. You can follow him on LinkedIn. He posts a lot of good stuff on LinkedIn. He's still doing studies. He's still doing good studies too. Different kinds of things, but still interesting and useful stuff. He doesn't have a huge presence. I'm here online because he's not. Right? But that's the thing. Is I've spent a good 5 years now teaching people this. Nobody seems to care or remember. I think I want to focus on making my trading platform now. Yeah. Should I throw out volume profile? I don't know. I really don't know. Well, we know why that behavior happens now. the question becomes, when I come in, I look at my volume profiles, you know, does that really tell me something? Can I actually use this to my advantage in some way? Well, I think my conclusion is that the stuff that we learned from Mind Over Markets, which was kind of the originator of this volume profile, market profile kind of stuff, that most of those kind of setups and things that they taught were not empirical. And basically, when you really dig into the data, you find that those setups aren't true. He still teaches it because people begged him to teach it to them. So it's like, okay, fine, I'll teach it. But there's nothing empirical about it. Could you find some empirical property with volume profile that it's possible? I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. The only empirical things that I've seen people even attempt is like, you know, over the past year, what are the chances if we open below the previous day's value area high of we touching the point of control again? And when you really kind of game all of those statistics out, what you're really seeing is not some tendency for the market to come back to that point of control, but just an artifact of volatility. So I think that, you know, if you have the volume profile and you absolutely love it, keep it on your chart. If you don't know anything about the volume profile, I wouldn't stress out about it, you know, because it's clearly not the most important thing that you could learn. The most important thing that you could learn is the square root law and why liquidity holes form, so that you can avoid entering into a trade just as a liquidity hole is forming. Getting stuck. Should also tap on all the problems with order flow too. Well, I think we kind of talked about a lot of that. Right. And I think ultimately the problem is not order flow. It's technical analysis. It's short-term technical analysis. The idea that you're going to come in and look at market data, and that market data is going to tell you what will happen in the next 5 minutes. There's not anything in any of the empirical literature, including the order flow literature, that suggests any kind of a signal like that. If it exists, find it and show it empirically. There are things in the order flow that will show you very, very, very short-term trades. You know, things that are like high-frequency trading, right? And you can watch the order flow and you can kind of keep yourself on the right side, right? You can see that the market is structured a certain way. That doesn't give you an advantage, but it does get you to like break even, right? You should be able to, if you really understand order flow and what's going on, you should be able to break even. Most retail traders don't. Most retail traders lose the spread. So with order flow, that can get you to break even. But order flow is still really essential to developing an edge, because it's the orders is the thing that you're really trying to predict, right? If I'm coming in and I say, well, I think that end of month flows have are going to be long. Well, there's all sorts of other things that are going on too. So if you're just looking in the price, you're not necessarily going to be able to see those behaviors because there's too much noise going on. Well, when you watch the orders, then you can see it. So it would be even better if we had even more detailed order flow. We could see who was submitting what. Then you could really split it out and say, oh, okay, yeah, this amount of the buying today was coming from this index fund rebalancing, right? So do you see where it's like, well, order flow doesn't necessarily give you an explicit edge, but it is kind of like a prerequisite to developing an edge? Yeah. I use only volume profile drawn after the Asia Open. Yeah, one of the things that I think I'm going to do with my platform is give you guys a volume profile that splits out the first and last 30 minutes of this session. Because the majority, especially in equity indexes, the majority of the volume happens at the open and closing auctions. So I don't think that price is necessarily reflective of much of anything. So if you were really trying to look at this sort of thing of like where have they transacted throughout the day and that sort of thing, I think you got to exclude those 2 points. And then what do you get from the order flow, and maybe do some study on that. That might be interesting. And I could just put it as a property in there. You know? It's another thing that I really want to do is give you better session handling. That's one of the things that I feel that NinjaTrader has always been weak with. Oh, you know what? I'm just realizing here. I'm looking at my screen because I can see some of my numbers over here in the Zen kind of chopped off. Is that I have the order column on in ZB and I don't need it. So if I do that, and I can give myself 2 digits, I think 2 digits makes more sense. So first digit's always a 1 anyways. There. Let's see here. Also, while I'm thinking about it, I should pull over. Okay, plot is done. What did he do? Okay, yeah, let's run it. Ta-da! Okay, so some things that we got to test. We can scroll. We can zoom in and out. We can zoom in and out like on one individual bar. That's pretty cool. Clicking down here should show me expansion, contraction. Yeah. And then clicking over here should allow me to resize it. Yep. And then I can reset it. Ta-da! I should also have an arrow. One more thing that we want to add. Let's see here. I have just a chart price showing on a chart with DOM attached. Then when I move my cursor on the DOM, a horizontal line will show on the chart on the screen. Oh, okay. That's something we could do. You know what weirds me out about my GUI? Is that, like, if I take it and I, like, resize it, for instance. You can kind of see all the bars resizing. If I do that with oh, okay. So Ninja Trader doesn't do that. It doesn't live resize. It waits for me to unclick and then it redraws. What about the zoom? Does it kind of... I guess it's about the same. There's just something about the way that my GUI looks that seems uncanny to me. You know what I mean? Now, there are some weird, you know, we're going to have to dig some deeper into some of these things because, you know, like these are both on 5-minute charts, but like my ES looks slightly different to theirs. It is the same chart, but it's like the bars are in different places. So what's that about? I'm gonna have to look into that. Oh, I don't know if you heard that sound, but I was like, that sounded didn't register what it was. It's Claude saying that it wants me to look at what it did. So let's look. What did you do, Claude? The history here is kind of messed up for some reason. Oh, okay, that is the... Okay. I think that there's a bug with the live data on my platform. I have to look into that. Okay, but if I move away from it... Okay. Doesn't look like an arrow, though. It's like so tiny. It barely even looks like an arrow. Let's consult. Should we use a carrot? Maybe. Or not a carrot, or brackets? Brackets? Wow. One non-technical founder hit 456K ARR in 45 days using Lovable. What? Using Lovable? That's insane. Do you hear the Pokemon chime? So I was just looking when it happened and I didn't see it on the right. I thought that only I would hear it. But you guys, I think, are hearing it too. Yeah. Like it's the sound that happens when you go to the Poke Center and heal your Pokemon. That's the sound that I have wired up for when Claude for when Claude is done. I don't like that the arrow that it draws is so tiny it barely looks like an arrow. Is there a way to make the character map bigger? I can barely see some of those characters. Let's see here. Your chart seems fast. Do you have it set to update at like frame rate instead of doing a 10-second or something? Kind of like how you can change how task manager. Yeah. So I mean, it's Rust. It's drawing at 60 frames per second or whatever the deal is. In terms of like the prices are just drawing at as the data comes in. Sure, it's getting better. Yeah. I still think there's an issue with live data. I don't think that it's modifying and switching to the new bar correctly, but like there's just subtle little differences. Actually, I should just pull over. Oh, that's only a 1 minute. I'm not going to pull the other chart over because I got it just in the perfect spot. I don't want to mess it up again, but they're slightly different. Like they're roughly the same, but especially on these last 3 bars, they're like slightly different. Like this bar, the current bar over in NinjaTrader looks more like a shooting star. So it's like where they put the open is different. I don't know what's with that, but okay, which one do we like? I think I like the double chevron. Might be a NinjaTrader issue. I don't know. I'm gonna bet you that it's not. Because probably what's happening is there's some disjoint like this. This is the kind of mistake that I would expect the LLM to make, where like there's some offset between the historical data and the live data and what it's cached and stuff. You know what I mean? But it's not a huge deal. I'm going to continue pushing forward and getting the other features that I need in first, and then worry about that kind of stuff later. Yeah, there's definitely something wrong because at one point it was up to 40 and then so like probably what's happened is it could be like opening and closing it too. So to properly test it, I think that we would need to have it open for like 30 minutes. See what they're doing. That's good. The next thing that I've got to do is make it so that I can pop the windows out. That way I can just put it right next to this window or something like that. And then I can go deeper into some of those things like is the chart actually correct and stuff like that. I think I want to do that. And then I got on my list there the licensing so that I can maybe give it to a group of alpha testers. And what else? So was there something else I wanted to do before I got into the indicators? I don't think so. I am going to do a little bit more reading up on how the Python stores its data to see if I can store it in that format with Rust and just have Python point to those. Over here, I should switch this back to this chart right here. Yes. Okay. Oh, you know what? I never did. I never went and changed the rollovers on these. So let's do that. You. You. Yes. It's just generating a commit message for me. I really want to know what this guy was doing with Lovable that was making 456 ARR in 45 days. Doing what? What app did he get that generated that much revenue? What? Link.
Block by.
Oh. What's this? That's got some legs. Ooh, Accrued is getting slaughtered, dude. Okay, so they came right to extended oh, you know what? Those are all wrong. Okay, extended session plus 2 sigma. That's too late. I was not prepared there. I think when I started seeing it coming up, I could have taken it off there. Okay. From Axios, U.S. and Iran reach deal but need Trump's final approval, officials say. U.S. and Iranian negotiators have reached an agreement on a 60-day moratorium of understanding to extend the ceasefire and launch negotiations on Iran's nuclear program. But President Trump has yet to give his final approval to U.S. officials tell Axios. Why it matters. The signing of the MOU would be the most significant diplomatic breakthrough since the war started, but a final agreement that tackles Trump's nuclear demands would still require further intensive negotiations. U.S. officials said the deal terms were mostly agreed as of Tuesday, but both sides still need to get approval from senior leadership. Both sides need to get approval. The U.S. officials claimed the Iranians later came back and said they had the necessary approvals and were prepared to sign. Iran has not confirmed that. U.S. negotiators briefed Trump on the details of the final deal, and he asked to take a few days to think about it. The president relayed to the mediators that he wants a couple days to think about it, U.S. officials said. Flashback, Trump and his advisors thought they were close to a deal several times at earlier stages in the war, but none materialized. U.S. officials said the 60-day MOU will state that shipping through the Strait of Hormuz will be unrestricted. A U.S. official said this means no tolls and no harassment, and that Iran will have to remove all mines from the strait within 30 days. U.S. naval blockade will also be lifted, but that will happen in proportion to the restoration of commercial shipping, a U.S. official said. The MOU will include an Iranian commitment not to pursue a nuclear weapon. The official said it will also state that the first issues to be negotiated during the 60-day window will be how to dispose of Iran's highly enriched uranium and how to address Iranian enrichment. The U.S. will commit to discussion, sanctions relief, and release a frozen Iranian fund as part of the negotiations. The MOU will also include a discussion of the mechanism to help Iran start receiving goods and humanitarian aid. So, the treasuries come back? No, they're still about where they were when I started reading, that is. Okay, so my take on this, just from reading that, I don't think he should sign it. Why don't I think he should sign it? So it drops the blockade. So yes, oil comes down, trade, economics are all good and all of that. But it also means that Iran can fix their economy, fix all of their issues that they're having on the military side. So basically, you are giving up all of the leverage that you might have. You have more leverage today than you will in 60 days because they will have recovered. They will have, all of these things. Right now, their military is like on the brink of collapse, all of these sorts of things. You're giving them a chance to recover. So if they're not willing to sign a deal now, why are they going to do it in 60 days? They're not. They're just going to delay and delay and delay. Nothing's going to happen. You're going to try and push it back even further, trying to get to a deal. And then at the end of the day, they're not going to make the deal, and you're going to have to go in and you're going to have to do even more, but it will be worse because their military has built up and reinforced itself more. So you're probably going to end up going in either way. It's probably better to go in now. Didn't he say, wasn't the whole thing like, I'm going to give you a week to do a deal, and then we'll, and if you don't, then we're going to blow you to smithereens, and you didn't do that. So I don't like what I'm hearing, to be honest. Now, Seth is a hawk, for sure. That's just my opinion. What really matters is what are the chances that Trump actually accepts that deal? I think that if the United States has to give up its blockade of Iran, which appears to have been working and has been effective, I think it's a bad deal. Iran's not giving anything up. What are we getting out of it? Nothing. I don't know if that means the chances of him actually accepting it are less or not. Or in other words, does the trade by the dip in oil make sense? Maybe it does, but not yet. I would probably wait a few days. Actually, I would probably even wait for him to... I don't know. I am kind of inclined to think that he might sign it, though, just because he can't. So it seems to me like the economic stress is really getting to him. I don't think that they want to go further in. That's a big headache. A big headache. How is on my Twitter Scott Adams is hosting? How can that be true? It must be that his estate replays old stuff or something. Well, I tell you what, on that one, I totally could have caught some of that if I had just been quick. But I wasn't sure where the levels were. If I'd known where the levels were, then maybe I would have clicked faster. So I should be prepared. Wish there was a way to make Jigsaw automatically do that. But hey, in our platform, we can automatically. If we had a DOM, we're a long ways off from ever having a DOM. Then it was all fake anyways. Well, I do think we have to also consider its Axios and Trump administration officials. I think that they probably are putting that out there to make the market feel positive about what's going on, because the sentiment on the Iran war coming into today was kind of negative because of the action that we saw overnight. Okay, what is Plink? Oh, I've heard of this. But that was a long time ago. Okay, Plink is this like women's safety app that makes public criminal data available to consumers. Is what that is. So that hit 456K. Wow. Okay. How'd she vibe coded a 200K a year app? That's a pretty simple thing though. Like and getting the data and everything, that would be the special thing about it, right? So it is a good example if somebody wants to vibe code things of like the sort of idea that you can get. Although it's maybe a little out of date. Like, I feel like the LLMs are way more capable than when that was a thing. $100,000. Oh, $1 million. No. $1 billion liquidated from the crypto market in the past 60 minutes. Yeah. Them crypto people were really feeling that last night then, huh? Oh, okay, so I totally forgot what I was doing over here. Chart learns to pan, zoom, and remember where home is. This is what it put into the message, the title. Oh, you know what the other arc is that I need? I need Windows. I want licensing. And I also need like saving the template. Like if I change what instrument is where, or like I split something out into a window and where it is, when I restart, it needs to have those at that spot again, because I don't want to have to go and every time do the stuff to get it the way I want it to look. It doesn't work. Oh, there we go. Okay. So it looks like that the kind of the pullback is over. I don't not necessarily seeing signs that they're going to get stuck here. They might though. Well, there actually is a little bit of a sign that it's going to do it at 26. Oil, even though oil is bouncing back, the cumulative delta in oil continues to be extremely negative. So I think they want to keep selling it over there. Let's see here. In the past few days, the CEO of OpenAI admits that AI won't cause the job apocalypse he predicted. Uber finds no return justifying replacing humans with AI. Starbucks removes AI from its system due to constant failures. Microsoft pulls Claude code from its engineers for seeing no cost improvements. Nature is healing, is what this guy says. You know what I think is going to happen? Is they're going to come back and they're going to say, okay, but our developers that are using AI versus the ones that aren't are more productive, or they make better code, or you know, like there's going to be some point where people start using it not to make stuff faster and just be a slop cannon, but to actually elevate the quality of their own work. And that's where I think that you're going to see the real power of AI. That to me is the thing that I think makes it really powerful. Because, you know, like I think some people are just excited that they can program now because they never learned those skills. I can program. Not only can I program, but I know the full stack. I can take you from writing code, virtualizing it, putting it in the cloud, or whatever it is that you've got to do to like deploy the application. So I can walk you through the whole process, which not a lot of people can do very effectively, by the way. Okay. We get all the time at work right now, somebody vibe coded something and they want to go and put it out there and they have no clue how to do it. And it's like, well, what you gave us is not ready to be deployed because it doesn't have this, it doesn't have that. We don't use this technology that the AI was depending on and things like that, right? They just don't know how to do it. So the skill set that I have is comparatively rare, and everybody else is really excited that they can kind of do a similar-ish sort of a thing, right? So I could do it before. I can do it a little bit faster, maybe. Okay, cool. What excites me is that it knows all of these other things that I might have missed. It can make it, you know, I'm making the same thing, but the thing that I'm making is like 10 times better because it's basically got like every little quirk and feature that like people typically out there on the, you know, open source and whatnot have added into theirs. And so you really get a really solid quality piece. That's why I think it's valuable, and I think that at some point that people will start to kind of single in on what I have found. What is the most uncracked engineer you have ever met? Stardew Valley should create a JoJo data center. Yes. That would be hilarious. Yes, instead of the community center being turned into a warehouse, it should be turned into a data center. I'd be all over that. There needs to be a mod that does this. Google Gemini equals an auto petter. Yes. They should rename the auto petter to an AI petter. What the hell? Okay, some of the questions that people ask on Ask Reddit. Not even... What should a detached window contain? A single chart only, full pane grid in each window recommended. But I think it should be a single chart only. Like, well, you could make it either or. Let's start with a single chart only. Okay, let's save that one for next.
Block cell.
Okay, percent just saying we will not accept tolls in the Strait of Hormuz. That was the move down there. I think that that's probably not really a significant development. Although I doubt anybody's going to like just automatically trade it back. So the impact of that will be permanent. So I'm already getting into, okay, what I'm asking Claude to do here, writing up a plan. I'm thinking that the plan that it's going to give me back is going to have significant issues in it that we're going to have to address. Just based on the questions that it's asking me. Starting, it's going like, oh, okay, this is larger in scope than you might think. But that's why I'm not having it write the code right away. I'm having it write a plan first. I was laid off from Meta and now I work at a butcher shop. Man. Researchers let AI models run a simulated society. Claude was the safest, and Grok committed 180 crimes and went extinct within 4 days. How she ate Robin Hood's lunch? Oh. U.S. charges Google employee with pocketing millions from insider trading bets on Polymarket. Justice Department and the CFTC allege that software engineer Michael Spanganuolo, that is a weird name. Oh, okay. Profited $1.2 million on Polymarket after accessing non-public information at work. And placing 25 bets worth $2.7 million on markets related to the most searched individuals on Google in 2025. Prosecutors said Spanganuolo, yes, owned the Polymarket account Alpha Raccoon, which profited $1.2 million on outcomes that the market treated as unlikely when Google published information on the most searched individuals in December. Wow. According to court documents, communities on Discord and X started discussing the possibility that Alpha Raccoon was a Google insider in December. I remember that. Soon after, the username was allegedly changed to a wallet address. Prosecutors alleged that the funds in the Alpha Raccoon account were also sent to a decentralized crypto swapping service and to an unnamed transfer service that offers privacy protection for blockchain transactions. Justice Department charged Spangunolo with commodities fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering, and could face a maximum sentence of 50 years in prison. In its complaint, the CFTC seeks restitution, disgorgement, civil monetary penalties, and trading and registration bans. The CFTC Director of Enforcement, David Miller, said in a statement, the division is a cop on the beat in the policing of illegal use of inside information and the prediction markets and other markets within the CFTC's jurisdiction. We will continue to take action to protect markets from insider trading and other forms of fraud, abuse, and manipulation. It comes after the Justice Department charged a U.S. soldier in April with using classified information to place bets on the U.S. capture of former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. So nowhere in there have I see a discussion about, okay, so is that really insider information? Well, it wasn't entirely clear to me what the market was that he was betting on. It sounded like that maybe the bet was who will be the most searched individual on Google. And then he knew because he had Google internal data, and so he made the bet. Potentially. And I think that Polymarket has rules that, like, you can't profit from that. But does the CFTC have rules about that? I think that that's a legal gray zone. So this could be a court case that we're going to want to watch and see how that turns out. Well, just the fact that they are even pursuing charges like that is a pretty significant statement by the CFTC, right? Because maybe it survives a court challenge, but you don't want to have to go to court in the first place, right? What you got to do is you got to find rare public information. You can't do insider information. You need public information that is rare. That's hard, but it can be done. That's interesting. Okay, another one. Kalshi are eating Robinhood's lunch. The meme trader migration. The retail trader didn't get bearish. He got distracted. Stocks near highs. Crypto stabilizing, yet retail participation keeps falling as speculative capital migrates towards prediction markets, sports gambling, and perpetual futures, and every other dopamine machine Wall Street accidentally created. I've definitely seen that over the past, since the Iran thing. People aren't as interested in the market. Industry retail equates volume has correlated closely with S&P 500 market levels. However, we have seen a divergence recently. Industry retail equity volume fell 17% month over month in April. That's a 4-year low. Quarterly SEC Rule 606 data showed a further decline in the share of retail investors in U.S. equity trading, matching the post-pandemic lows of early 2022. In fact, outside the October 2025 spike, the share of retail investors in U.S. equity trading has been declining since mid-2025 from a peak of around 27% in June 2025 to around 17% by March 2026. Migration, importantly, retail speculation itself may not be fading nearly as much as traditional volume metrics suggest. It's simply migrating elsewhere to what Wall Street or your more sophisticated drug dealer would call engagement channels. Prediction markets eating the lunch. Industry prediction markets volume and users have risen rapidly since the first quarter of 2024. And increasingly, the line between investing, trading, and gambling is becoming harder to distinguish. This chart shows that sports makes up the vast majority of contracts. Crypto, The once dominant output for speculative and retail activity is also showing signs of fatigue. Crypto volumes fell 64% from quarter 4 of 2025 to the trough in April of 2026. Longer drawdown, the recent peak to trough crypto volumes decline of 7 months has been longer than the 4-month median of past cycles. Substitution Goldman, we see a substitution of spot crypto trading with other products, namely crypto ETFs, perpetual futures, prediction markets, and commodities trading. Even Kalshi calls it gambling as per a new bespoke survey of 1,368 clients. Kalshi's own users don't buy the regulated exchange story. 58% of Kalshi users call prediction markets gambling, not investing. The highest gambling lean of any platform's user base, including DraftKings and FanDuel. The reframe to investing doesn't survive contact with the product. It's not. Who thinks it's investing? Of course it's not investing. It's a short term. Like, for investing, it needs to be something that you can hold for years and years and years and decide when you're going to want to get out of it. It's trading. It's trading. Is it gambling? Well, most retail traders are gambling because they don't have an edge. But what really is gambling? Gambling is just a word. Just a word. Okay, so now the Iranians reinforcing that they have not yet accepted any memorandum of understanding. So the negotiators have made a deal, and now they're going to present it to, or they have already presented it to the leaders, and both leaders are kind of sitting there going, yeah, well, we'll talk about it. I kind of feel like, here's the thing. On this kind of a decision, shouldn't the process be, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no? You know what I mean? Like, we know what the deal is. If I'm not immediately like, hell yes, that's great progress, let's go forward with that, then they're going to say no. I'm kind of leaning on, yeah, I think this is hyper speculative, and I'm really always a little bit worried about, putting myself out there and making a prediction like that and everything. But I think my prediction is that it's not going to get signed. That one side or the other is going to say no. And that we will go through to like at least another round of negotiations, probably. Because I don't think that we're going to have like strikes this weekend or anything. I was watching the Souk versus Rico, and Polymarket flipped twice in favor of each during the fight. Wow, really? Yeah, see, the thing that I don't like about prediction markets is that prediction markets kind of trades on the kind of action that I dislike the most, which is when something's going on live and it's happening on TV and the market is just reacting to that. And you don't know what somebody's going to say or do or crazy thing that's going to happen that's just going to blow your trade up. It's I think, a fool's game to try and predict some of those things. And you're just not like fast enough to react to those effectively. So I like news-based trading, but I don't like the live action news-based trading, right? Which is like what sports betting is. But on the other hand, if I can attach my platform to Polymarket and Kalshi, I'm gonna. I should look at that. ChatGPT. What options do I have if I want to connect my trading platform to Polymarket or Kalshi to get order flow information from that? You have 4 tiers of integration options depending on how deep you want the order flow data to be and whether you want to trade or just observe. direct WebSocket order book feeds, the closest equivalent to futures DOM order flow feeds. Both Polymarket docs and Kalshi docs expose real-time order book streams over WebSockets. I love it. Boys, this is great. Great news. Polymarket exposes full book snapshots, incremental price level updates, trades, best bid, best ask, market creation, resolution events via WebSocket. The important event types are book price change, last trade price, best bid ask. This is essentially a crypto-style CLOB feed. Kalshi also exposes real-time WebSocket market data. They support order book snapshots, deltas, trades, subscription by market. Given your background, you could build all of these things, blah, 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 blah. Prediction markets are actually unusually interesting for this because markets are discrete, information shocks are huge, informed flow is often obvious, participants are heterogeneous, liquidity is thinner than futures. This makes institutional style flow analysis potentially very powerful. REST polling, easy but inferior. Both platforms expose REST APIs for current book, last trade, market, metadata prices. Okay, cool. Historical order flow capture. Polymarket does not provide historical order book data. Only executed trades settle on-chain. The race setting order book is off-chain in their matching engine. So if you want historical DOM replay, footprint charts, queue analysis, microstructure research, you must continuously record the WebSocket feed yourself. Third-party normalized APIs. Some people are building unified prediction market APIs like OddsPipe, PMXT. Useful if you want. I would like, yeah, because I'm sitting here thinking like, well, what I could do is I could build a data provider that is on all of the time and then just sends that data, passes it on to people and become the data provider. Seth, in my category is news trader, informed trader. Yeah, I don't know what I want to be an informed trader, but I don't want to trade live. I want to try to trade live news. I want like news where I can sit down and like I can make a prediction that a news headline is going to come in, or there's a news headline that's come out and the market's digesting it. And I can read into some of the nuance of it to figure out which way the flows are going to go when other people aren't sure. That sort of a thing. Given your interests, I would probably avoid relying on these for long-term. Yeah, I think I want to do that. You know, but that sort of a thing I could, if I get venture capital. I think I could, you know what? Like, the more I'm thinking about this and the more I've looked at these sorts of things, the more I'm like, I think I could get funded. I think that I have like having somebody that understands the technical side all the way through and is hyper interested in the business stuff, the investing stuff. That's a rare combination. So I think that just me as a person, because I think that a lot of like venture capital is investing in an individual or in a team, you know? I think that I'm strong there. And then it's just the strength of the idea. And I think that the business that we got, you know, and that we could potentially expand into if we had the money, I think that there's definitely opportunities there. Definitely do it. Before I was kind of like, I want to play in that field. I want to learn about it and stuff. But I think that the best way to do this is to bootstrap it. But I keep finding different lines of business that you can potentially expand into that I'm kind of like, we should just be getting the venture capital and expanding. think what I was just reading there, though, like I should implement Kalshi and Polymarket because it looks like that there's like no cost to do that. So, I like it. Add it to the roadmap. By the way, while I'm thinking about it, let's look up the X feed as well. Request API access. Retail subscriptions provide access to real-time and historical market data for visual analysts and decision-making within supported charting and trading platforms. Check the details section next to each feed for more information. Please note that the following services are not available to individual users, both professional and non-professional. API access, i.e. trading bots, raw or programmatic access to data feeds, historical data downloads or bulk exports, use of data in unsupported or custom-built applications/scripts. For platform providers and business entities, DXFeed offers data integration options only for companies building products for end users. If you represent a trading platform, terminal brokerage, etc., and would like to integrate, please contact us. Company is prepared to complete exchange licensing and compliance requirements. Some stuff that I would have. Maybe I do. Maybe I can't bootstrap it. I think we can still do it. Actually, I might be able to. I might still be able to. I mean, like, I don't know about the licensing. Like, how much money do you need for the licensing? But the compliance and stuff like that, I think you can totally do. But then it says, please contact us. Where? Where do I contact? How would you like to obfuscate your platform? What do you mean by that? You mean like to hide so that it's hard to reverse compile? Did Omen switch sides? You know what, Vital? I'm worried about that, but I think it's probably not that. I think that what's happening is that Iran keeps talking with Oman and saying, hey, we can work together and we'll charge a toll through it. And That was something that came up like a month ago. And I think that is like not gone away. And so they've made comments about that. Yeah, like exactly that is really important. Yeah, I think so. But I have that for C#, not for Rust. I wonder. Rust. In Rust, obfuscation is primarily achieved using procedural macro crates that alter the abstract syntax tree at compile time. It is used to protect proprietary logic, hide sensitive strings, and make reverse engineering significantly more difficult. Several open source tools and libraries can be integrated directly into your cargo to secure your builds. Rustfuscator. Rustfuscator. That's funny. First CLI and library that rewrites Rust source code, encrypting the string load, injecting control flow noise, and renaming identifiers. Designed to survive compiler optimizations. Can negatively impact your CPU and cache performance. Dedicated attackers can still bypass these protections. Debugging and stack traces and debugging become harder to read when the code executing on the machine. There's a little resemblance to your source code. Yeah, but you can just build that, and you can have a developer build that is not obfuscated. I think that should be fine. So it sounds like there's a little bit of stuff to learn there, but we can totally do it. I finally stopped normal candlestick pattern day trading and shifted to order flow. So it's a step in the right direction. Let's see here. Oh, S&P 500 went a little bit higher. So it's about time for me to get going. I'm just going to answer this one last question here with ChatGPT. There are 3 integration tiers. Individual developer internal use. B2B platform vendor. The platform redistributes market data to users, allows multiple users to log in, streams data to consumers, records, replays exchange data, exposes APIs to customers. It includes DOM order flow visualization. Then exchanges classify you as a vendor. That triggers exchange agreements, reporting requirements, audit requirements, entitlement systems, professional, non-professional user classification. Must prevent users from accessing feeds they didn't pay for. Auditability. Display versus non-display usage. Oh. Exchanges distinguish between displaying data to humans and machine usage. Non-display usage is much more expensive. Things that may trigger non-display classification, automated trading systems, algorithmic signal generation, server-side analytics, API redistribution, machine consumption of codes / order books. This is where. So I don't think that'd be doing that with the DX feed data. I think that maybe I want to do that for the prediction markets though. They support WebSocket, so that should be easy for me to connect to. DX feed developer onboarding docs. Yes, this is what I need. Okay. I'm excited. Boys, I gotta get going. Boys, I don't think there's any women here today. We used to have a couple of women, but they kind of, you know, there's not very many of them. If you have a negative week, it's usually not order flow trading. I definitely had negative weeks trading order flow too. I have to say, you know, like, I did really, really well when I first started the channel with just pure order flow. Like, it was like I had like this 3 or 4 month period where it was like I just couldn't lose. And then I went through a summer period where I just couldn't win. And then, you know, I would go through that cycle over and over again. And it wasn't until just after the pandemic that I kind of started to realize that I was missing so much. That I was only looking at the order flow, and even though I always paid attention to news, I wasn't looking at these things like end of month rebalancing and all of these other predictors of order flow. So that was when I got into the research and really realized how important those things were. And my trading got a lot better after that. Still not perfect, but it got significantly better after that. And then again, when I switched over to trading micro contracts, then that's when I really started to become proud of my trading. I want to join your Discord. Yeah, there's a Discord link in the video description. You just go and join. It's like the largest free futures trading Discord out there. Though it's been a little quiet lately. Because, you know, like I said, the retail trading community has taken a big hit over the last 4 months. So, but yeah, I'm there. You can talk to me there. Or you can message me on Discord is the best way to talk to me. Anyways, yes, I do got to get going. I'll see you tomorrow. Can you believe it's already Thursday? In the meantime, stay excellent, team.